Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Inside the Aisle. I'm your host, Nikki Wolfe, and today we are jumping back into Coach's Corner. So it's been a little while since we've done an episode in Coach's Corner, and for those of you who aren't familiar, I am a certified functional health coach, so I do that within the company I work with and on the side as well, and that entails a number of things, but one thing that I really work on with my clients is their mentality, their thoughts that they're thinking on a regular basis, and how that either leads them in a direction of procrastination and fear or success and thriving. And so today I wanted to talk about something that not only I discuss almost on a regular basis, but it's something that I've struggled with for quite a bit of time before I really understood what it takes to make the shift. And based on the title of this episode, you'll probably have a good idea. So we are talking about progress over perfect. So there's a variety of ways you can word that, but we're going to just dive in a little bit deep into that. And what we're doing a little bit different is I'm kind of using this episode as an example. I did a brief little kind of jotting down notes, but not something where I'm taking notes and like doing this really in-depth research and planning for this episode because, and this is what we'll chat about, is generally that's just a distraction for not doing the work. Sometimes just jumping in and removing the fear that things are going to be perfect, because to tell you the truth, nothing's going to be perfect and that will never happen. And you really got to get going in order to learn where to grow, to adapt, and honestly, to get the work done. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you are somebody who maybe is type A, is a perfectionist, really struggles finding motivation or inspiration, and maybe you'll get in routine for a while and then it'll fall flat because either your workout partner moved or your colleague that kept you motivated is no longer with the company. Whatever was that little piece that was keeping you on track is no longer there. You feel like everything fell apart, and now of course you can't get started, you can't do anything. So if that, hits you a little bit and that sounds familiar, then this is the episode for you. So let's just dive in. And again, I've done a little bit of notes, but not a heck of a lot, because I want to show you that sometimes just getting in and getting started is more important than it being perfect and continuously pushing off the task. Because you know what? This has been on my calendar for quite some time and I've just been procrastinating it. And finally I was like, you know what? I got to do what I'm preaching and just put in the work and get started. So with that being said, that'll pivot us to you gotta do the work. So this book I recently found, and if you are an LA resident, you have to check out this bookstore. I always confuse it. It's either the Last Bookstore or the Lost Bookstore, and it's in downtown LA. Incredible. It's like a museum almost. It's an event that you go to, and they have new books, they have used books for really good prices. But I found this book called Big Dreams, Daily Joys, and it talks about empowering yourself, overcoming procrastination, building productivity habits, making space for creativity, and saying yes to the right things and no to the wrong things. But what I really pulled away from this is there's a chapter called Let's Get It Done. And that couldn't be any more relevant to the episode for today. So I'm going to kind of dive into some of the highlights that I pulled away from this. Like I mentioned in the beginning, you just gotta do the work. And it's that simple, but it's also that complicated. And I feel this so deeply that it's more fun to do the planning, the organizing, the brainstorm. I remember when I used to do ClassPass, I almost got a high out of scheduling all the events than actually going to the workout classes. And I feel like that is a reoccurring pattern that and I've had friends who are like, I enjoy the planning, but when it comes to the actual event itself, that's where I want to stay far away from. And as much as, that motivation is good, if you're a writer, if you're an athlete, if whatever your job is, in order to be good at it, you just got to go. In order to be a good writer, you got to write. In order to be a good runner, you got to run. And so just taking that first step and building that momentum and, those things of finding inspiration and creativity and motivation. And that is a huge one for so many of us, especially in the fitness community, or if you're just trying to, it's February at this point, be healthier, lose weight. You're constantly looking for motivation to get out, get moving. The thing is that's a distraction from the real task. You really just need to put one foot in front of the other and go out and show up, whether that's for 5 minutes or 50 minutes. I know right now I'm about 2 months away from giving birth, hopefully 2 months. And it's getting a little bit harder to get motivated to move my body and work out. And I will say I move my body every day. For this first 7 months, I was working out at least 6 days a week. Right now I'm seeing like 5 days. And one thing I just tell myself, put your clothes on, show up at the gym. If you do 20 minutes, that's a win. And I truly feel it. You have to embrace that, not go in and oh, that's a failure. That is a win for me because I showed up and I stayed consistent. So whether that's, going to the gym, getting in the Word, studying, writing a paper, just show up, put 5 minutes in. I've even heard people that, they'll put their workout clothes on and their trainer says, I just want you to walk into the gym. If you turn around and walk out, fine. It's that consistency. It's that showing up. That is the hardest part. And generally, most cases, you're going to do 5 minutes. You might do 15 minutes. You might come out of the gym and you're like, wow, that was 25 minutes. So all you got to do to start, instead of all this distracting from the real task of finding inspiration, looking for the best tool, the best sneakers, the best diet, is just start. Put in that work. In this book. So this book is by Elise Blaha Kripp. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. I probably did. And I feel like this kind of goes along with what we were saying about this inspiration cycle. We look on Pinterest, we're reading different stories. I know I do this sometimes of I'll scroll on Instagram of these, when I'm really struggling to work out, I'll find people who have maybe excessive weight and they're getting up and they're showing up every single day, no matter how hard it is. Or people who, have disabilities and they're showing up every single day and putting in the work. And so that's something that is inspiring for me. And there is, truth to motivation and inspiration, but we can't depend on that. And so when we're consuming this inspiration cycle, it's really just a trick. And they talk about, look at the ratio. If you're spending 3 hours looking for inspiration, but 1 hour doing the work, can you flip that script? Whatever your task is. I use fitness all the time because that's kind of where I'm at. I know a lot of my clients, that's what they struggle with. So let's say, 3 to 1 is a little excessive. Let's start in the beginning. So let's say you're scrolling, Pinterest, Instagram, anything for an hour. You're looking for new shoes, the best new workout clothes, and then maybe you do 5 minutes of something that day, or you don't even do anything that day. Can you flip that ratio? Instead, we're not saying that inspiration, motivation is wrong. You just don't want to depend on it. You can't use that as your, start to the progress. And so flipping that script, taking that inspiration cycle, throwing it in the washing machine, mixing it up, and I want you to switch those ratios. And so if you want to be healthier, if you want to get fit, you got to do it. You got to stop the thoughts in your head, get out and go do the work. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be easy. And particularly in the beginning, it's going to be hard. It's going to be boring. And what happens is the more you show up, that's where motivation hits. That's where you build momentum, because it's the crossing of the tasks off. It's looking at, wow, I just completed this that I've procrastinated for 3 months and I just got it done. Then you feel the momentum and you're like, okay, if I can do that, I can do all these small things. And so that motivation actually comes while doing the work, not before the work. And sometimes if that happens, if you find motivation before you start, fantastic. But oftentimes it happens while you do the work. So you want to get out of your own way, stop scrolling, put the phone down and start working. This author came up with some stuff of like, there's a few different things. I took a lot of notes. I really, really am enjoying this book. And it's more of like it's not really like a regular reading book. It's kind of just like a fun, informative one. All books are informative, but so right here, she talks about picking a day to just do it. So maybe all those tasks that you procrastinated, focus and put that on the calendar and you are going to get those done today. So instead of like, talking yourself up of how amazing this day is, be realistic. It's not going to be fun. It might be boring. Are there ways that you can add things in to make it easier? I've done this in the past, that some of the tasks that I'm dreading. Oh, hi, baby Jet. She's been very needy today. I don't know why. Some of the tasks I've been dreading. So for instance, like going through my wardrobe and finding stuff and pulling it out to either donate or sell or whatnot. I've always dreaded that. And so I started doing with one of my girlfriends, we would do a swap. So I would go to her house one day and I would help her purge her closet. And then we would go to the store and donate and sell. And she would do the same. And so sometimes having that a little bit of accountability or support will help me get through it. That actually reminds me, my 33rd birthday is coming up. And instead of gifts, I asked my mom and sister, I want a purge party. So that might sound a little weird to you, but they're going to come over for the weekend and we are going through every single room of my house. And again, I tend to gravitate towards a more minimal environment. We are going to go through every single room of the house and either donate, sell, get rid of, box things up because we are moving soon, and just get rid of things. So again, I can do that. I've been procrastinating it quite a bit, but having them there is going to help me push through it. So whatever it takes to just do it and get the things done, make that happen, put it on the calendar, ask for help, do that accountability swap. So help a friend and ask if they'll help you back. So this kind of moves me over into motivation, which is a thing that we're always looking for, motivation or inspiration. And, the thing that is important to remember is motivation or building motivation is just like building a muscle. You got to practice and you got to exercise. You got to do that consistently or you're not going to be putting on that muscle. And so, like I said before, is motivation will often feed momentum. So once you start, like for right now, I'm in the gym and I like to wear tank tops because I want to see that muscle definition, especially 7 months pregnant. I want to see that because even though I'm dreading going in some days, when I can look in the mirror and I'm lifting weights and I see that definition, that pumps me up. That gets me more motivated to go harder. I've been filming myself doing push-ups lately. And again, 7 months pregnant, I'm slow. I used to be able to do 40, but now it's a little bit harder. And when I film myself, there's something about it that pushes me to do more because I can see that change. I can see the growth. And so at first I was starting with 10 and now I'm up to 13 push-ups. And I did that yesterday we are officially 31 weeks pregnant today. So, whatever it takes. But again, I wouldn't see that difference if I stayed home and I was like bundled up in a sweater. I'm not going to see the changes. It's only until I'm doing the work that I start noticing that difference and seeing the results. And honestly, it's going to get easier and easier to maintain the motivation as you continue with that momentum. This author kind of provides a few different resources if you do struggle with motivation. Again, that's like a iffy term we're using here, but she talks about clearing your space. So again, I think there is a lot of truth to minimizing or like minimalism lifestyle, especially if you're type A. I'm just saying this as a generalization. Chances are you might have hyperactivity in the brain, a little like OCD, ADD kind of traits. That's me to a T. And so I overthink. And if this is chaos in my head, then if the house is chaos, nothing gets done. And so sometimes I can't always quickly reframe this or control this, but I can control my environment. I can clean up my desk. I can clean up my house, and that's going to make a difference and at least put me in the right direction. So try clearing your space out. You can also create a routine. So, maybe that's waking up and going in the shower first thing, putting your clothes on, like starting a routine instead of just kind of like letting things be and happen. The routine or that ritual can be the cue or the trigger to tell you it's time to get started. Setting a timer, that's another thing that works for a lot of people, or chunking, they call it, or time blocking. So, whatever you struggle with, if you work from home or whatever that might be, is setting a timer. Okay, for 20 minutes, I'm going to do this workout. I'm not going to touch my phone. I'm not going to do anything else. Or for 15 minutes, I'm going to clean the house. Whatever you've been procrastinating, set a timer. That is something that is really helpful for a lot of individuals to kind of get going. But the one I love the most that she mentions is tell yourself it's just a trial run. I work with so many clients and they're just afraid to get started because they're overwhelmed or like, I'm not good enough or I'm just not ready enough. Think of it as a trial run. Whatever you do today, it's just going to be that practice and a warm up. I don't have to, even when I have guests on the show. So I'll tell them beforehand, and maybe this will change as the platform gets bigger and whatnot. But I tell them, if you're not happy with it at the end, we can redo it. I want you to come in confident and comfortable with the material. Think of this just as a trial run. And if you're not happy with it, we can redo it afterwards. Sometimes that just takes the fear off a little bit, or that intimidation. You're like, okay, I can get started. So whatever you're struggling with, I want you to think of it as a trial run. Let's see what else. So this is another cool component she talked about. And again, I will link everything, or this book, this author, really happy with this. The best tool is the one you'll use. So this lady, or this author, is clearly a writer, and she was working on writing, I think, a book or something, and she used Google Docs and Word Doc, and everybody kept telling her to download this new app. It's fantastic for writing, so good, effective. There's all these different incorporations and platforms, and she realized she had two choices. She could download this new app and take the time to learn it and get familiar with it, or use that time to just write the book in the old school Google Doc, Word Doc, and just do what's already worked. And so she says, if it's broke, fix it. But if it's not broke, stop worrying about it and just use it. And that rings so true to me. I love planners. I love laminating. I love finding the best gadgets and tools and systems and Excel documents. And for so long, and one day I'm going to actually work on doing a plan with me video, but I would always constantly just find the best system. And first of all, there's never a best system or a perfect system. It's just the one you'll use, and you can perfect it and make it prettier later. And so when I started pulling that away of okay, I can make this cute and clean lines later. Let me just do the work. That's when the work started to get done. So again, if it's broke, then fix it. If it's not broke, stop worrying about it and just use it. There's one other note. Okay, so this kind of comes full circle back to the title of this video. So progress over perfect, meaning once you get started and you just start moving the needle further, that's going to be so much better and so much more efficient than trying to make something perfect. Because generally, when you want to make it perfect, you never get started because there's so much fear and limitation and intimidation to get you going. And so the quest for that perfection is not only impossible, it's a hindrance. And that's a quote from her. But, I think nowadays people like in this current culture, like, okay, I don't need to be perfect. Like I feel like the word perfect is slowly starting to fizzle out of like, okay, we know we don't need to be perfect. So if that doesn't like really ring true to you, I want you to change that with not good enough. So the quest to be good enough is not only not possible, it's a hindrance. Like this paper is not good enough for me to submit. This, presentation is not good for me to submit. This, let's say you're like a YouTuber and you're trying to film like a house tour. I don't know why that was the first thing that came up to me, but this isn't good enough. My room's not good enough, ready enough for me to film. Anything enough, good enough, skinny enough, pretty enough, successful enough, rich enough, that's all fake. It's all phony. We're never going to be enough. And that can be a whole other conversation. But take that away. Like, why are we trying to be all these enoughs? That's what's holding you back from the life that you want, from accomplishing all these things, from getting going. Nobody who's successful had a perfect road to the top. They failed so many times. And in that failure, that's where we learn. That's where we grow. That's where we develop. That's where we become refined. Like in the fire, the heat, the heaviness, the pounding. I think I've mentioned this in one of the episodes, but like there's something in scripture where it talks about the refining process, where you have this rock where there's gold underneath. But in order to expose the gold, you got to hit and bring it to the heat and like get it hot and boiling and uncomfortable and smash it and smash it and smash it till all these pieces and fragments start to fall off. And then it eventually unveils this beautiful gold. And so we have to do that work. We have to get in that heat. It has to be uncomfortable for a while until we can show its beauty, until it's done and it's final or it's good enough. So if that's something that you struggle with, that it's not perfect enough, it's not good enough, it's not ready enough, take that away. Stop that, because you're just wasting time on this whole perfection. And if we took all that time that were spent making it good enough, we would have been done already. We would have been closer to accomplishing our goal. All that energy and time and thought being spent and wasted on making it enough or perfect is wasted. And you could have used that completely to just get going. So coming back, I prepped for 5-10 minutes for this. I wasn't quite ready, but I wanted to show you an example that, look, we're 23 something minutes in, and I feel that this is good. It works for me. I mean, I hope for you guys, you pulled something away from it, but I could have easily procrastinated this and prepped all these notes and done research and like looked at other episodes on progress over perfect, but I might not have gotten to this episode for another week, another month, another 3 months. Just get going. Just show up. Whether that's for 5 minutes, for 15 minutes, put the pen to paper. Just get it started, because you know what? If you're a writer and you're trying, or if you're a student and working on an essay, even if it's not perfect or it's not ready, it's just a draft. At least you got a draft. At least something already exists. So just get that started. And one final thing I'll leave you with. So my sister does something. Oh, if you can see the video, there's my little puppy. My baby jet. One thing my sister does that I wanted to get involved with, we just never lived close enough. But now I will be 5-10 minutes away from her. Sorry, Danny. Is she does something with 2 of her friends called the Focus Week. And I don't think it's necessarily seven days, but it could be like 4 or 5 days. And they rent out an Airbnb like in the mountains or somewhere, kind of just a really nice location. And they put all their distraction away. And they come to this week prepared to start and finish a task they've been procrastinating. Maybe that's an activity. Maybe that's a side hustle. Maybe that's a book, whatever it is. They come in with a plan. They keep each other accountable to not be distracted. We're not getting on social media. We're not doing our phones. Everything's away, and they just crank things out. And so I've never had the opportunity to join theirs. I've done other ones similar before, but it doesn't have to be a week. Maybe you can find a friend, and for 2 days, you guys get a hotel and say, let's do this, this focus retreat. And we put all the distraction, all the noise away, and we just get started. And it's going to be uncomfortable in the beginning. You're going to want to grab your phone, or you'll come up with an idea and you're like, okay, let me Google that. Nope, you can't. Put it away, put it in a box, and you are already capable. You have all the knowledge. You have all the inspiration. You have all the motivation in your head. We are just distracting ourselves with trying to find something better or something to recreate. Just use what's already in your head. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this inspired you to just show up and get started. So whatever you've been struggling with, put one foot in front of the other today. Just put your clothes on and walk in the gym. If you turn around, that's a win. And you're going to do it again tomorrow. If you're a writer or you're working on an essay, sit down and write 2 sentences. If that's all you got, shut the computer and walk away. Whatever it is for you, just show up and just put in the work and stop with the distractions. Because all that time spent looking for inspiration and motivation is being wasted and can be used to move the needle further. Last reminder, you will find motivation once you're in the middle of your work. You will build that momentum once you're doing the work. Not before, but when you're in it. All right, guys. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If this is something you'd like to hear more about, whether it's just Coach's Corner or motivation, progress over perfect in general, please let me know. Until next time, guys, we'll see you soon.